Well, you don't get much bigger than this report coming out of Mickey Views and Brayden. They're saying that Walt Disney World may completely transform their Frontierland into something totally different. But what's even more crazy is I have huge sources reaching out to me directly and telling me that the reason behind it, well, it's not unfamiliar to those of you who have been following this channel, but it's still pretty disappointing. Are Disney World guests, in fact, just a little bit too white? All right, who's ready for a bombastic bombshell of a report out today? A number of sources, a number of leaks, a number of rumors, all kinds of salaciousness. One of the most spicy things you could possibly imagine coming out about Disney World and Disney parks. This thing is crazy. You're not going to want to miss this. Folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and you can stick it to the algorithms. When you click it, we're talking about that notification bell. We cover your comments, so drop one down below. All right, we're taking a look today at Brayden, at Sir Brayden on Twitter, also of Mickey Views. He is quite famous in terms of covering Disney parks, specifically Disney World, has had a number of scoops, and we like Brayden. Brayden's a friend of ours. Of course, we also like some of those other content creators out there as well and communicate with them too. We don't want to pick sides on anything, but Brayden has, well, if this comes true, Brayden has had one of the biggest scoops in terms of Disney World that will be around for years and years and years. Here's what he has on Twitter. What the? That's what we think too. Based on information provided to Mickey Views, again, that's his website, we believe Disney is debating retheming Frontierland at Walt Disney World into a New Orleans Square style street featuring a Tiana restaurant and a completely reimagined Country Bears attraction. There's more to this than just what he's saying. We'll get to it in a moment. But as you can see, essentially the idea is that Frontierland, as it is currently constituted, would continue to exist up until the point you get to where the entryway, the breezeway between Adventureland and Frontierland exists. So some of these items that are closer to Liberty Square would continue to exist as they are, although it needs to be said that there's not much to that area in terms of attractions at all. And so from the Country Bears then forward, including Pecos Bills, including Splash Mountain, all of that would potentially be rethemed to New Orleans. Now, why would they do this? Well, because they're bringing in Splash Mountain, turning it into Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and according to sources I have, they are deeply concerned about this because enthusiasm for that endeavor, for changing this to Tiana's Bayou Adventure, is not where they would like for it to be. Now, that's a rumor, that's speculation, because I can't corroborate it, but that's what I'm hearing from multiple sources. So when there's smoke, there's fire, in my opinion. But okay, so we've got the lackluster reception of Tiana's Bayou Adventure. So what do? Well, you make it something bigger and more grandiose. You turn the whole area into New Orleans. Not only that, but we have heard in the past that they don't like Country Bear Jamboree. Now, why do they not like it? Because, as I've reported in the past, it's our understanding that the Stories Matter group is not only looking through all of Disney's catalog of content, but also into their parks, into their attractions, into their themes. We've heard such crazy things as that they feel there should be more diversity in the credits on the Main Street windows. And of course, years ago, I reported that the Country Bears Jamboree was being looked at and that it was not on their favorable list. Now, that is I'm not a huge fan of the attraction. I'm not saying that I dislike it, but I'm saying that if I go to the Magic Kingdom and that doesn't, and I don't see it, it's okay with me. I'll be all right. But that's not to say that there are not fans of the Country Bears, and I would understand if they're removed. We'll get to that in a moment. Now, the other thing to note that's not in this image is that the Tom Sawyer Island over here, you can see it, of course, in the middle of right here with Aunt Polly's, sorry. And the thing about it is that this probably also is not going to remain as is. So even though Brayden has the New Orleans section highlighted in green, and we think he's onto something here, don't think that Tom Sawyer Island would remain either. That's probably not true. Let's take a look at where he goes farther with this. He says, if Disney is considering removing Frontierland, and let me put something here, okay? I think that Brayden didn't actually mean that fully, okay? Now, maybe he does. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but here's what I think. I think that they're going to, down here, you see where Liberty Square is, and you see that goes up to the Haunted Mansion, right? Now, of course, it's got the Haunted Mansion show building highlighted, and most people would never see that. But if you look at Liberty Square and it goes down here into Frontierland, I think that probably Disney will continue to call this area that is currently known as Frontierland, Frontierland. I think that they'll just simply say that New Orleans and the desert-themed land are all part of Frontierland. And it'll become sort of like New Fantasyland, where you have these little sublands existing inside of it. Now, here's the thing, though. This is a huge ordeal. This is a ton of money, and we have seen stuff about this before. But let's finish reading the tweet. If Disney is considering removing Frontierland by retheming its street to New Orleans, this leaves Big Thunder landless. The Coco and Encanto expansions would form a new Southwestern-style land with Big Thunder. Villains may eventually link this new land to the Haunted Mansion. All right, so here's what, and I'm going to differ just a little bit from Brayden on some of the things that I'm going to tell you, but pay attention, and we align mostly on what we're hearing, and I don't know who's right or wrong. Again, this is speculation and rumor, so there's no telling how this turns out, and plus we're talking about something that will come in the future. So there are many decisions to be made, and there are people involved, and you know how people are. People will change their opinions. Companies will change their directions, and so we don't know exactly what will happen just yet. However, Brayden's got all of this area down here with Splash Mountain turning into a New Orleans-style themed area. That seems to me to be very likely, given that Adventureland near Pirates of the Caribbean is, guess what, Caribbean, and guess what, when we're talking about the Bayou, we're talking about the Gulf of Mexico, of course. And then you're going to have this southwestern area, but not really southwestern. We're talking about desert theme, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, Coco, and Encanto. Now, why does this line up? This lines up because earlier this year, or last year, Disney came out and did a Beyond Big Thunder Mountain Railroad presentation with their Imagineers at D23. And when that first came out, I thought, well, this is insane, because it doesn't make any financial sense at all. And I want to explain that to everybody real quick. If you look at Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, the ability to get back here to this area that we're looking at with Coco and Encanto is not easy at all. There are two very unpleasant ways of doing it. Unpleasant way number one is that you can route a new pathway, but remember, these pathways have to be huge because of the amount of traffic that's going to want to go to new lands. But you could put a new pathway that goes back between Big Thunder Mountain Railroad and backstage areas. It would have to, in my estimation, go under the railroad where Splash Mountain's exit queue is, and then it would go through the backstage area, and it would have to be completely rethemed, possibly with vast amounts of rock work, to get you back to this area. It would also require likely another bridge, and this bridge being removable, this bridge being one that they can continue to get the various boats back there to be worked on, because that's where they do that. But if you got there with that method, that works. The other method you could do, this is more difficult, is you could actually build on top of Rivers of America here. You could build on top of it with some sort of giant bridge, walkway, boardwalk, pavilion kind of thing around Big Thunder Mountain Railroad and get there. And in that case, you have to go over the railroad somehow. So there is no good way to get there. Ways that Imagineers have looked at using this land in the past have included having an attraction that is somewhere near Big Thunder Mountain Railroad and Splash Mountain, but the show building is back here. But actually moving people back there is pretty tough. And so when I had seen this previously about they were going to do this, I thought, well, why in the world would you do this? There's so much land available, and that is so weird. I mean, of all the places to put it, that's one of the most costly things you could do. We'll talk about why they're doing it in a minute. And folks, if you click the thumbnail, you know what's going on here, and it's going to make perfect sense. Now, this villains land up here, this is where me and Brayden, we're going to differ just a little bit, and that's okay. Because I don't know who's right or wrong, because this isn't finalized yet. But you can see that he has the villains land connecting with Liberty Square, and that is what I have heard as well, that it would connect and go alongside the Haunted Mansion somehow. However, I think rather than going up into this area, that they're actually going to use the area that's between New Fantasyland and their pyrotechnic launching site, which is north of here. And so that area actually goes back here behind the road that would take you into the Utilidors. It's behind the Small World show building. And so I think they'll use that land mostly for the villains land, but they will have some sort of connecting point between the Encanto area and the villains land, which thematically makes a lot of sense.
Make sure to catch the Pro Show Thursdays 5 to 7 Eastern Time. Entertainment Explained, The Culture Curve Conquered, live with Pro and all his friends.
Now, this is very expensive, and it doesn't seem to me that Disney is in a place to spend money right now, but maybe they are. And of course, I recommend that all of you go check out Mickey Views and MickeyViews.com and check out Brayden's video on this. It is definitely worth your watch. We're not going to play it here, but you can see that an entire video all about it. And for example, he says, in this Mickey Views special report, Brayden Holness presents his report on future expansions at Magic Kingdom Park and the Walt Disney World Resort, and goes on to talk about some of the things we're talking about. Definitely go give that a click. Description and the link is in the bottom below this video. All right, now let's get to the spiciness. That's spicy enough that they're getting rid of Frontierland, but why are they doing it? Well, this is going to blow your minds. It blows my mind, although until yesterday, none of this made sense to me. Why do you want to spend all this money to put stuff in an area that is very difficult to get to? For example, there's an area southwest of Adventureland that is easily accessible and would cost almost nothing to use. There are other expansion pads available. And yet to go beyond Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, that's something. So here's the report that I have yesterday. Now, please know that I was previewed that something big was coming out, and so I had time to start talking to some people. And then once the report came out yesterday that Brayden came out with, which aligns with much of what I've heard before, talking about the Story Matters group and all those other things, I began reaching out to some of those same contacts saying, okay, here's what it is. What do you know? I'm working hard. My entire middle of the day yesterday was gone as I began to try to figure out what's happening. And so I put together this report. It is based on rumors. If you look, you'll see that it says categories, Disney Parks opinion rumors. It's specifically rumor territory. But you all know that I take rumors seriously. Not all rumors make it onto this channel, and only the ones that I believe have a chance of coming to fruition do. And I mean a significant chance. So here's what we've got. There are huge rumors out now about the future Frontierland at Walt Disney World, but the story behind what is happening may go even deeper. Brayden of Mickey Views was out with a Herculean report this morning regarding Frontierland at Disney World, although this report may also be effective for other Disney parks as well. The specificity, there we go, that's that syllable I want, of the leak is regarding Disney World, but the originating concern and theme of the information is applicable to all Frontierland areas of Disney parks, essentially. And it goes into the same stuff that we've talked about. But here's the spice. Everybody ready? I had known that a major Disney World leak was likely on the way. As a result, I began reaching out to sources, although in this case, some of the biggest news came from a highly trusted source that reached out to me. All in all, I have corresponded with 3 people about this potential change to Disney World whom I trust to give me accurate information. Their data lines up. I'll have to correct that one. Not only that, but the information being presented also connects dots with information I had received and reported on years ago regarding the Story Matters group. In that situation, I had said that Disney was looking to audit all of their attractions across their Disney parks as well as their assets. In other words, my understanding is that the SMG is not limited to Disney media, but also the parks. Here we go. According to my sources, Frontierland is being changed. Again, guys, this is rumor and speculation, but I can only go off what people have been very, very accurate in the past and are in positions to know tell me, and when they line up, I listen. According to my sources, Frontierland is being changed because the Walt Disney Company has identified Frontierland and its American Southwest cowboy and redneck motif as problematic and non-diverse. So instead, they wish to change Frontierland into an amalgamation of New Orleans, generic desert, and South America. Whereas I had previously been greatly confused by Disney wanting to expand past Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, given the enormous infrastructure burdens that would create, now that I know it's likely part of a DEI initiative, it all makes sense. And if you think either the Country Bears or Tom Sawyer Island will make it out unscathed, think again. Now, let me clarify why that makes sense if it's DEI initiative. That's because I believe that Disney has decided that they are going to be completely captured by this ideology, and we're seeing that over and over again. Whereas other companies are moving away from divisive stuff, Disney is moving towards, as fast as possible, embracing as strongly as they can, all of the DEI, all of the, ESG doesn't really belong here, but all of the stuff that you might put under the umbrella of quote-unquote woke, that has become Disney. They may even be so far as we should just call them DEI-isney, and that might be more appropriate. Now, why Disney has embraced this so strongly is a topic for another day, but it all comes down to years ago, Robert Iger bringing in a vast number of people who are very far in one direction in the political spectrum. And because of that, those individuals are going to be at Disney for a long time, and they are hiring other people who are of that same mindset, and it is transforming the company. Here are a few of the points I have picked up from the various conversations today. The primary motivation for retheming Frontierland is the cultural sensitivity stuff, as was the case with Splash. This is big. If Disney parks can't secure funds to update Country Bears, Disney will not let the attraction go on in its current form because it's so culturally outdated. Another component of this is making a de-Americanized, desert-themed land, which Disney thinks is necessary to give more representation to their Hispanic audience by making the desert land revolve around Mexican and South American properties. Now, again, folks, this is coming directly from sources, okay? This is not from the company. We don't know what's going to happen in the future exactly, but when I have multiple sources telling me the same thing, got to listen to it. All right, here's the one that is, this is the bombastic part here. And before we read it, I want you to know it lines up with what we've been seeing throughout the Disney company and other areas. However, Walt Disney World is the cash cow. Walt Disney World is the king. It is the crown jewel in the crown of Disney. It brings in tons of revenue, and as long as Disney doesn't mess up, it always will. That is why this is amazing to me that Disney is now pushing the strategies that have killed it at the box office, killed its animated feature films being lucrative, stagnated its streaming service. Disney is pulling in that same strategy to Disney parks. Allegedly, here it is. Another leaked bit of information sent my way is that this is part of a new initiative growing out of Disney parks and the Walt Disney Company, in which they have determined that their guests are currently constituted as simply too white. I cannot corroborate this, but I trust the source enough to run with it. According to the source, Disney World guests are seen as being proportionately too white, and Disney has decided that parks are catering to that type of audience instead of reaching out to other demographics. Rather than a cost issue, Disney may have assessed that the way to resolve this issue is to follow the audits of the Story Matters Group and diversify the Disney World parks. Now, all of that is to say that in my estimation, the problem that Disney has is not that they are offering content in their parks which is non-diverse. No, indeed, I think that's the opposite. But rather the problem Disney has is that they have made their parks so expensive that they have priced out many people. And they are catering, therefore, to only the elites or the global wealthy, or at least in America, the upper middle class and beyond. And because of that, they are squeezing out a vast number of people who would love to go experience Disney World. Rather than drop the prices, though, or rather than make it where it's more affordable, it seems that Disney has decided the way to draw in people of all different backgrounds is to retheme and get rid of the things that Disney has determined are no longer appropriate. In my estimation, that includes Tom Sawyer Island, that includes the Country Bears, that included Splash Mountain, and it will not stop there. So that's what is going on in my belief, in my honest belief of what Disney's up to. It follows the pattern of everything that Disney has been doing. And you know what? It makes total sense to me that Disney looks at, just like we talked about the 4-quadrant strategy they have with Lucasfilm and Star Wars. If you didn't see that video, you're going to want to check it out. We'll have a clip of it coming out this afternoon. But just like that 4-quadrant strategy they have, Disney wants to flatten out the demographics that come to their parks, that consume their products, et cetera, et cetera. That's my belief. And therefore, Disney attempts to do that through means that I think are just ridiculous. They are economically theoretical goofiness. How's that for you? Disney, if you want to attract people of all different types, make your parks more affordable, grow the capacity of the parks, and do so without damaging the stuff that people love and have been wanting to enjoy for decades. Update, update, update if you so want, but don't despise the things that made you so popular in the past and which are not, in fact, divisive, which are not, in fact, antiquated or outdated. These are things that are beloved. Well, folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and click that notification bell. When you do, you stick it to the algorithms. We covet your comments. Drop one down below. What do you think? How could Disney possibly draw in new demographics rather than Disney World being what perhaps they think is too white? And if you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget that there's even more exclusive stuff. Just click that join button and you can become a member for the cost of a soda per month. And I think you'll really enjoy it. All right, folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whether you are white, black, brown, green, blue, whatever you may be, I think you're human and I think you're lovely. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.